It is 5:30 p.m. and I will call to order the December 16, 2019 meeting of the MISD Board of Trustees. Welcome. We will begin with a moment of silence followed by the pledge to the United States and Texas flags. However, before doing so, I'd like to introduce to you the student who will be leading us in those pledges. That student is Midland High School senior Nadia Bernal. Nadia is a group commander for the Midland High Air Force Junior ROTC, where she has received the Silver Star Community Service with Excellence Award, the National Sojourners Award, the Celebrate Freedom Foundation Award, the Air Commando Association Award, and the Military Officers Association Award. Outside of the Junior ROTC, Nadia is involved with the Midland High School Orchestra, where she plays the viola. She currently has a course load of U.S. government, pre-calculus, English 4, forensic science, and astronomy. Her father, Kenneth, tells us that after she graduates, she plans on following in her grandfather's footsteps. Her granddad served in the U.S. Army in Vietnam, and Nadia plans on enlisting in the Army and then wants to pursue a career in law enforcement. Thank you for leading us tonight, Nadia. But first, if you'll please rise for the pledges of allegiance. For a moment of silence. Thank you. Nadia?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Nadia, and we wish you the very best on your future career. All right, next, agenda number 2, presentations, recognitions, award, and announcements. First, Chevron Energy Donation presentation. Ms. Gammerfelder, welcome.
Good evening, President Davis, board members, Superintendent Riddick. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight to present this fabulous donation that we have received. I am Anita Gammertsfelder. I'm the director of the Education Foundation, and joining me this evening at the podium is Kaylee Dunn from Chevron. She is the Public and Government Affairs representative. It is my joy and pleasure to let you know that Christmas came early for MISD with a gift from Chevron totaling $150,000. These funds have been divided and will directly designated to Project Lead the Way, which is a secondary STEM-based program that will serve over 250 students. The Permian Mental Health Conference, which will welcome 300 counselors to a conference here from all across our region. Lamar Elementary, they are their partners in education. The Petroleum Academy and the MISD nurses. They needed some equipment and supplies, and this generous gift is going to help them. They see over 1,000 students a day, so this is a great gift for them. I also want to let you know that Chevron participated with Fuel Your School program, and it gave over $129,000 through Donors Choose to our teachers here at MISD. Just a fabulous gift. Chevron is amazing and a faithful community partner, and I'm pleased to have Kaylee here tonight so we can all say thank you. Ms. Dunn.
Thank you, Anita. Good evening, President Davis, members of the board, and Superintendent Riddick. As Anita noted, my name is Kaylee Dunn, Public and Government Affairs Advisor for Chevron, based here in Midland. Thank you for having me today. I'm proud to stand here tonight to represent Chevron. Anita has given you a brief rundown of all the programs, so I won't repeat this year's gift, but I do want to thank each and every person that has had a role in supporting these programs, events, departments, and schools within the district. We have appreciated the partnership and dedication that staff and teachers have shown, and it is truly our pleasure to work with them. I also want to thank each one of our numerous Chevron employees that volunteers and gives back to the district. Whether it's involvement with the Ben Milam Dual Language Academy, hosting supply drives at the office, or volunteering with their kids' PTA, I applaud each and every one of them. As we all know, money has an important role, but it only goes so far. Our employees truly are our secret weapon. Chevron has supported the district for years. Of course, many of our employees live and work here. Supporting education in our community is the right thing to do. But we also know that the children and young adults that your teachers had in their classrooms today are the future of our company. Those bright minds, currently distracted by Santa and the holidays, may one day be aimed at our industry's toughest problems. Chevron knows that education is a community-wide responsibility. We are all held accountable for ensuring that our kiddos get the best education inside and outside of our schools. While schools and parents are on the front lines, we are very proud to play our small part. Thank you for having me today and for allowing us to partner with you and the community on education.
Thank you, Ms. Dunn. And thank you, Chevron. We appreciate all the support. Next, 2B, grow your own master's completion. Mr. Horner, welcome.
Evening, President Davis, board members, Superintendent Riddick. We could have Alfred Acosta and Tiffany Gardner come forward, please. And Mr. Bailey, if you wouldn't mind. Board members, we're going to recognize two stellar teachers tonight. I appreciate your willingness to let us share this information. Each of these teachers has completed their master's degree, has been funded through the Midland Grow Your Own grant. This pathway is designed to support teachers in obtaining their master's for the greater purpose of creating a strong sequence for students to enter and complete an education and training cluster of courses. So the grant was written to get teachers their master's to support students in education and training, but also to give them opportunities for dual credit so they're better prepared after they graduate from high school to go into an education program. While they're working on their master's and before they actually get students in their education and training classes, they serve as mentors and support for the Texas Future Educators Group, the Taffy Group there at Midland High School and also at Lee High School. To begin with, I'd like to recognize from Lee High School, Alfred Acosta. Alfred completed his master's in educational leadership through Lamar University. Next, from Midland High School, Miss Tiffany Gardner Moore. Just in conclusion, Board, I'd like to share that we do anticipate additional teachers to be completing. These two teachers just worked extra hard to have theirs done by December. So congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations, teacher. Thank you very much. Mr. Horner, thank you. All right, item agenda number 3, public forum. We have 9 persons signed up to address the board this evening in no particular order. First, Jennifer Carpenter. Topic, board representation. Ms. Carpenter, welcome.
Good evening, gentlemen, Mr. Board members, Mr. Riddick. I begin by thanking you for tabling the items on the agenda that pertain to the election situation. But I come to you tonight to ask you one thing. I want to ask you to evaluate your positions within our district. Have you truly represented everyone, not only in your respective districts, but each other? Many things have come to light during the last several months, and many things have been said, implied, and encouraged in this community. This has been a stressful experience for not only all of you, but for the students, teachers, parents, and taxpayers that contribute to MISD. Were those you represent heard, much less listened to? Some were, it seems many feel they weren't. I appreciate Mr. Murray's statement in the MRT saying he has learned this process could have had some more steps to help with the impact of this bond presentation. I thank you for having the political guts to state your opinion on that to this community. we as a community expect to be considered more as a whole than just a select few. Behaviors of our board president at the annex last Thursday was unexcusable, and I'm disappointed that something was not only said immediately, but that it appears to be condoned. This district claims to not allow bullies, however, the face of our board acted as if rules don't apply to everyone, and I know Ms. Vasquez will speak more on this. As a parent of one of MISD students, I'm concerned that the do as I say, not as I do is the precedent set. If we expect students to be held accountable, we should expect the same from the adults in the room. However, I do appreciate Mr. Davis personally emailing me to inform me of the new anonymous reporting system for employees. It gives me hope that those of us that speak at public forum, that our words don't fall on deaf ears. I see strides within MISD, and I appreciate the follow-through, as Mr. Bishop following up about the comments boxes on each individual campus. The first time I came to speak to you all almost 2 years ago, I asked you to remember why you took your positions when you began this journey. Please remember that the eyes of this community look for you to set the example and to have the best interest of our students, employees, parents, and community members when you make decisions that impact all of us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Carpenter. Next, Heidi Kirk, topic, bond and charter. Ms. Kirk, welcome.
Thank you, Board and Superintendent Riddick. I actually think it would be better titled about adult behaviors have to change if we expect student behaviors to change. I want everybody on the board and probably in this room and in our community to think about what examples we've set for our students over the last few months. I've seen many examples of inappropriate comments and behaviors from the community, from the board, from leaders. I would like to see that change. I've seen misinformation provided to the community. I've seen people act inappropriately with media because they didn't agree. While I haven't seen the video of what happened last week, I've heard from multiple eyewitness accounts, and it's disappointing that this is the way we think that we can behave. And it's not just all of you, I would say the community is guilty as well. I even had people get upset with me because I called for unity right after, I believe on both sides. So even people that I voted with thought that I was wrong for calling to unity. The reality is this is what we need. We need people to begin to act like adults, act in an appropriate manner, show our kids what that example really looks like, and do better. We need to do better. If we want student behaviors to change, our adult behaviors have to change, period. I'm happy that the bond and the other information was removed from the agenda because I think that this gives us an opportunity to have a new vote. I don't think anybody trusts what happened in those ballot boxes anymore because of all of the misinformation that's been provided, which again, you're not responsible for that. That came from the elections office. But a new vote gives you the opportunity to provide more transparency and actually include the community that feels like it was left out. Half of the community didn't agree. The problem is that most of us were made out to be against the district when we're not. Many of us actively support and participate in things that happen and want our district to do better. And I think that this gives you an opportunity to do better and to include. I'd like to see the district restore faith. We want to support, we just want you to demonstrate different decision-making. We want you to do the same thing with your teachers that you expect from your teachers to do with your students. We want you to reach out and create those connections with them. Same thing with all of you. I do have a question about transparency with the charter schools, which I think directly affected the bond as well. We would like to know what that plan is. Every time we come, it seems there's more opportunities for more charters, but we haven't really fleshed out what the current charters look like, and we haven't seen what that success looks like. And there's a lot of question across the nation as to whether how many charters are really going to be in the best interest of our district and our students. There's a high likelihood that there's going to be a large number of at-risk students that are going to be left behind by this. And so I'd like for you to give us more transparency on what that's going to look like long-term. Is the plan to have every charter school, every school taken over as charter, or do we have a limit where we're going to begin to look at results and see what that really means over the long term? Again, adult behaviors must change for student behaviors to change, but that doesn't just apply to our teachers. That applies to all of us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Kirk. And for clarification, the items on the agenda tonight remain on the agenda. They will be tabled when we get there. You know, we don't table in advance, but when we get there, I'm confident that they will be tabled. All right, next, Caleb Kirk, topic bond. Mr. Kirk, welcome.
Good evening. I was invited here today just to talk a little bit about my view on what's going on with the bond and the voting. And based on the information I know, I think that it's a good idea to do a revote because there have been some discrepancies in what's been going on. And I think that a revote would allow us to get the knowledge out there more and get more people going for or against either way. It would give people more opportunity to state their opinions on what's going on here. And yeah, I just think it's a pretty good idea. Sorry, I didn't prepare much. That's about it.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Kirk. All right, next, John McAfee, topic, community. Mr. McAfee, welcome.
Thank you, President Riddick and board members, Superintendent, President Davis, sorry, Superintendent Riddick. I'm here to come to thank you as a member of the community, especially you, Mr. Davis, for trying to de-escalate a possible conflict situation that simply appears to be very volatile in the community itself. I took the opportunity to read the op-ed. I'm saying op-ed, it sounded like an opinion. I don't know whether that was what it's designed to be, but it appears that you overwhelmingly tried to de-escalate some of the misinformation, some of the misunderstanding of people in the community here. And I was so appreciative of that particular fact because if anyone read that particular op-ed, if you did not read it at your leisure, either on your iPhone or Android, or read the newspaper article itself. It was very, very lengthy, and I know you took some time in doing it. But as a member of the community, I just want to say I am so appreciative. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for the board, and thank you for the community being concerned. Everyone is not going to agree with me, and I'm not going to agree with everyone else. But to be civil, that's all I ask. And that was an extreme attempt to be civil in your article on today. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. McAfee. Next up, Matt Galindo, topic, apply Midland and last meeting. Mr. Galindo, welcome.
Good evening. Last meeting, I sat there at the MISD building as we waited for the vote on the canvassing of the recount. I sat there in hopes that there would be one board member that would acknowledge the fact that there was a discrepancy, in the hopes that there would be somebody that would stand up and let the community know something wasn't right. I sat there after I spoke and I prayed a little bit and I asked God to have one person speak up. Unfortunately, not a single one did. Unanimously 7-0. It's disappointing when we have leaders that are not willing to face the fact that something is wrong and still go about it. I understand that the vote was necessary. I understand that by state law you had to vote. You had to vote. I'm sure that's correct, right?
Yes.
But you did not have to vote yes. Whether you'd like to admit it or not, sir, this is just my opinion. I just feel that knowing that there's a discrepancy and still going forward just makes me uneasy with what else is being passed, what else is being voted on. So that's all I'll say about that. Applied Midland, when I spoke there and I afterwards met up with Ms. Kale and Superintendent Riddick, I spoke about the elementary schools that are not doing so well in MISD. I spoke about the 9 that we have that are failing. The 9 that are P. Sam Houston, Days of Allah, Washington, Bunch, Travis, Jones, Henderson, Scarborough. From the TEA says that they received an F, unacceptable performance. Most students need more academic support to be college, career, military ready. With the following Milam, South, Lamar, Bonham, Long, Fannin, Burnett, receiving a D, needing improvement. Not enough students are making adequate academic progress to eventually be prepared for success in college, military, or career. My children currently attend Great House, but it's my understanding as the last meeting, they will no longer be able to attend because their transfers there due to the occupancy that we have there. So I called and I asked, I spoke with Student Services today with a lady by the name of Melissa, and I asked if that's the case, then where would my children be able to attend? Tommy Franks is not accepting first graders. She said kindergarten and fourth grade are at capacity. Santa Rita, Emerson, Parker, Rusk, and Bush all as well. Where do I send my children? And from what she let me know, next year it's going to be the same. So my question is, what do I do with Seth and Sarah? Do I send them to these schools? Do I continue to send them to schools that are not performing well? Do I have to buy a house on the different side of town to make sure that we can get them the quality education that they deserve? What do we do? What do I do? I can tell you what I won't do is I won't sit back and let this happen. I refuse to let this go ignored. The idea that we're not able to give our babies a quality education is ridiculous. And the fact that we're pushing for a bond for over $500 million in the name of academic success. We did one for the elementary schools. Look where we are years later. What do I do with my children? I've protected them up until now, and I will continue to do so, but I'm trusting them with y'all, and y'all have failed. So now what? This information, Mr. Riddick, can be found on Applied Midland. When I spoke to him, he made it a point to let me know that most people that stand at this podium are uninformed or misinformed and don't know what they're talking about. So this information can be found on that website. Gentlemen, I'm just asking, do right by our babies. That's it. And when it comes to a vote like that, I, as a brother in Christ, just expected more from elders, from ministers, from Crucista. I expect more. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Galindo. Next, Kristen Vasquez. Topic, board behavior. Ms. Vasquez, welcome.
Good evening. I do not always agree with the decisions and actions of our school board, but I can always treat you with respect. This does not appear to be the standard for our school board members, however. I have never been so disappointed in our school board as I am by the behavior of President Rick Davis and the way he treated MRT's reporter on Thursday during the ballot count. Mr. Davis, for a man who is the face and representation of our school board to speak to not only a woman, but a pregnant woman, the way that you did is unacceptable. For you to speak to her so disrespectfully and degradingly in front of her peers is just downright shameful. And then for you to double down on that behavior and aggressively approach Mr. Doreen, who just suffered a major medical emergency less than 3 weeks ago, and who is simply just trying to do the right thing by standing up for his employee, is disgusting. If you cannot control your emotions and treat people with dignity and respect for simply doing their job, even if you disagree with them, then you should step down. We are a district that is supposed to not stand for bullying, so why would you not be a better example for our community than that, especially with cameras on you, even though the footage has now mysteriously disappeared? Would we allow this behavior from our school council president or from the captain of a football team just because there's a title in front of their name? Sending her a text that says, "I'm sorry you think I was disrespectful," takes away all your responsibility for your actions and places it on her. Even my children can understand how much of an unacceptable apology that is. It is appalling that a man would speak so inappropriately to a woman that way. We should be better than this. All of the men sitting on this stage are married, and I'm sure that some of you even have daughters. How would you feel if a man spoke to your wife or your daughter in a way that made her feel so targeted? And add to that, what if she was carrying your child or your grandchild? Is this the example that you want to set for our school board? You should all be ashamed and embarrassed by Mr. Davis's behavior. And those of you on this stage and in this audience behind me that were present for this behavior and did nothing should be ashamed and embarrassed by your own lack of moral compass to not stand up for what is right. I now hold everyone on this stage accountable for what Mr. Davis does to fix this. Every one of you voted unanimously for him to lead this board. And since you chose to publicly humiliate and disrespect that reporter, you need to publicly apologize to her, her spouse, and to Mr. Doreen. And if you as a board do not agree wholeheartedly that speaking to a pregnant woman in that manner is inappropriate, then you are not the leaders that our children need to look up to. Just as I would tell my kids, you have one opportunity to make this right. And if you choose not to, and board members, if you do not insist that he does, I will not vote for any of you when your term is up, and I will encourage every person I know to do the same. This behavior is unacceptable, and we can do better.
All right, Ms. Vasquez, thank you. Next, Dave Joyner, representing We Choose Our Future, topic bond election. Mr. Joyner, welcome.
Board, Mr. Riddick, thank you guys for having me. I want to just briefly read a statement that we sent to the media earlier today and just a couple of follow-on comments from there. Today, Midland County officials discovered 836 ballots from the November 2019 MISD bond election, which were not provided to or included in the official recount commissioned by We Choose Our Future SPAC earlier this month. As a result of this discovery, we, the co-chairs for We Choose Our Future, Christine Foreman and myself, have filed an election contest pursuant to the Texas Election Code with the Midland County District Clerk. This election contest is a necessary next step in the process of ensuring that Midland voters get an accurate tally of all votes cast in the MISD bond election. Regardless of the outcome of the contest or the outcome of the school bond election, our ultimate goal is to put forth an actionable plan that will provide adequate and safe facilities for MISD students and educators without further delays. I understand that other individuals in this group and groups from the community have expressed intent to file an election contest as well. It is our intent to show our community that individuals from every perspective on the bond are interested in being sure that every vote is heard, which is why we did that. Also, I was an advocate for this bond, as you know. I will be an advocate for the next bond. There is no perfect plan, but I can hope we can all agree that the only bad plan is no plan. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Joyner. Next, Christine Foreman, also from We Choose Our Future. Ms. Foreman, welcome.
Good evening, Board. Good evening, Superintendent Riddick. I just wanted to address in front of the community one thing that I've heard some misinformation about tonight and then previous to tonight. The fact that the school board had no choice to canvass the hand count results when they did. I specifically had a conversation in person with Keith Ingram tonight. He is the Director of Elections at the Secretary of State's office. I believe that makes him the ultimate authority on elections law in the state of Texas, who pointed me to Election Code 213.033, which states by law that the canvass had to happen. He also said that shall canvass, when used in that language, in that code, means what it says it means, that you shall canvass the results, and there is no discretion. So I just wanted to point that out because I think, facts are important, and I want to encourage everyone to go directly to the source. If you're looking for more information about System of Great Schools, Elise Kale has been very open with her office. I know she has offered plenty of informational meetings in regards to the System of Great Schools and the things that MISD is doing and the board is doing to move our district forward, instead of making accusations or believing hearsay. It's important, I think, to go directly to the source. So I went directly to the source today when I spoke with Keith Ingram, and I just wanted to share that. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Foreman. And our last speaker, Patrick Payton, topic, bond elections. Mr. Payton, welcome.
Mr. Davis and board, thank you for the opportunity just to come before you, and thank you for what you've been doing for us since the election. I know it's been difficult for everybody. In specific towards the bond and towards our community, I made one statement during a campaign stop where I said I hope all of us can get to a place where we trust each other's integrity, where we speak to each other as human beings and not speak to each other as political opponents. I think we came to an interesting place here today. Now we know where we stand, and I want to encourage us, not just as a board, but as a community. It's time for us to move on together. It's time for us to move on peacefully. It's time for us to move on together. It's time for us to move on without accusing each other of specific things or even hearsay. And I think as a new day approaches us with the new year, whether you agree on one particular bond or another, there's no way we can make progress unless we make progress together, respectfully, forgivingly, humbly, and gracefully, so we can continue to be the Midland that we hope for. Thank you for your work. Thank you for what you've been doing for us. Thank you for all that have spoken. But we're evenly split as a community, and now it's time for us to come together united to do what's best for all of us, sometimes even if we don't agree with each other. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your respect, and I look forward to what we're going to do together as we move ahead together.
Thank you, Mr. Payton. All right, moving on to our consent agenda items. 4A, board meeting minutes on page 11 of the meeting packet. 4B, monthly financials, page 24. 4C, budget amendment, page 36. 4D, monthly expenditures, page 39. 4E, monthly investment report, page 59. 4F, personnel appointments, page 66. 4G, compensation manual update, page 70. 4H, request for proposal number 19-01, property management, on page 75. 4I, RFP number 19-16, bulk fuel, on page 79. 4J, contracts over $100,000, page 82. And 4K, board gifts, page 89. Board members, do any of those consent agenda items need to be pulled for any reason? All right, 4G will be pulled. That's the compensation manual update on page 70. Any others? All right, hearing no others to be pulled, then consent agenda items 4A through F and H through K will be deemed approved by consent. All right, returning to 4G, compensation manual update, Mr. Trischetti.
Mr. Bailey, as he comes to the podium. I'm all for innovative ways to compensate our teachers. I just was hoping maybe you could just expand on it a little bit, not only for the board, but for the community. Kind of, was this a best practices model? Where did we come up with this metric to measure those, and how are the incentives laid out? Just give me the Cliff Notes version.
Definitely. This is a win-win for our district as well, for our teachers and classroom staff that continue to forge ahead every single day. In the midst of our current local economy, it's become very difficult to fill classrooms as well as surrounding districts. So under the direction, of course, and with the direction of Mr. Riddick, trying to pursue alternative initiatives or innovative ideas to reward staff. For years ago, we tried some things I've been in the district long enough to realize we tried some things and they may not have been as successful, but the two initiatives specifically for class size and then also for perfect attendance will hopefully be two initiatives that will as well contribute to an increased retention of our current staff, where they can see on their paycheck at the end of the month the additional work that they've been contributing to the classroom each and every day. So those are the two things. Number one, class size, looking at particularly, as was noted in the information that was presented, class size has much more to do with vacancies. So if a teacher is called upon to fill in for a vacant position, or there's a vacancy in that grade level or in that subject area, then they can be able to have a little bit more compensation by 6 weeks. So looking at that and trying to structure that in a way that utilizing those funds from the vacancy to cover the increased compensation for that teacher. Understanding there's more work, there's more grading and all of those things. So it's staged out based upon the number, especially elementary. Secondary is just a little bit different. We look throughout the entire district. It's minimal. However, there are about 3 or 4 teachers at the secondary level, and then maybe 6 or 7 at the elementary that this would affect. But that's an initiative that definitely rewards them for their additional work. So that's the class size, and then the second is perfect attendance. We've tried some incentives in the past. Previous administration has looked at a yearly perfect attendance, but one thing about it is, a teacher may have a sick child, and instead of them, being put out of the system or the reward for an entire year, giving an incentive by 6 weeks. So maybe if you missed it the first 6 weeks, you can come back the next 6 weeks and be able to receive that perfect attendance stipend. So the funds are there due to vacancies. All of our staff across the district are working hard to make sure that our children are receiving quality education, and so this is another initiative by the direction of Mr. Riddick for us to pursue, and so that's why we're bringing it forth at this time.
Well, I appreciate any way we can help to incentivize our teachers that work hard or in larger classes. We certainly want to do that. So I'm glad to see some of these kind of outside the box thinking to incentivize and compensate our teachers. I'll make a motion.
I do have one other comment, if I may. Some way, form, or fashion, I would like to include our cafeteria workers, our maintenance staff. Those people put in a lot of work behind the scenes as well on work that's being done before everybody get to work. So if there's a way possible, Mr. Riddick, that you could get with HR staff and possible Ms. Moss to see if there's any way we can do some type of incentive on perfect attendance for those people as well, if that's possible.
We can address that. It becomes a budget issue that we can look further into, but yes, that's something that we can definitely pursue.
Mr. Bishop, just to reference as well, at the end of the school year, one of the things that we do, just to backtrack, every year for our members of the audience, we build into our budget a $1,000 stipend in addition to what a person receives as a salary for our paraprofessionals, cafeteria workers, maintenance staff. Last year, we were able to increase that by $3,500, $3,000 to make the total $4,000 that they would have received in the year. We'll still go down that pathway, not to say that we won't look at attendance, but we will continue to go down that pathway to incentivize those who do return back with a large stipend that could come and be attractive that way. The work that we're working through is called Opportunity Culture. It's a culture that designs its program around thinking through its people and what opportunities exist to help push it forward. There's programming that we're partnering with Ector County and Texas Tech and UTPB through this work and endeavor to really stretch ourselves in a very different way to push what those opportunities look like financially to our staff members.
Absolutely.
And I just want to make a comment that I applaud you for those efforts. And, you know, there's I've been been on the board for 4 years, and I hear, you know, I've heard so much in 4 years and it's just constant, the negativity of what we don't do for teachers. But I really appreciate your extra effort for as we work through this. The system is big, and you know, some of these solutions are as complex as going to the moon. And so we applaud you for that hard work and for staying diligent and keeping focused so we can do everything we can for our district. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Mr. Riddick, Mr. Bailey, and any other administrators that have been responsible for this initiative. Certainly it's been discussed for a long time and been put in place. I think it's important also to recognize that this particular policy put in place takes issue with the misinformation that continues to surface in this community relative to how we treat the teachers in our district. So on that big point, I commend you.
Are we ready for a vote?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr.
Second.
Second by Mr. Murray. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Mr. Kennedy is absent. He is out of town business this evening. All right. And that was for consent agenda item 4G, compensation manual update. Now we turn to our district reports. Agenda 5A, board goals, constraint progress measure 2.1, beginning on page 91 of the meeting packet. Ms. Lance, welcome.
Good evening, President Davis, Board of Trustees, Mr. Riddick. I'm here this evening to present on constraint progress measure 2.1. Okay, got it. And constraint progress measure 2.1 is targeted towards reducing the number of improvement required or F-rated campuses, or the number of students that we have attending F-rated campuses. During the 2018-2019 school year, total district enrollment was at 26,157. At that time, 4 campuses were labeled as improvement required, and a total of 2,438 students were attending these campuses. This was a total of 9% of the student enrollment population. This school year, the 2019-2020, the district total enrollment is 26,335. With the release of the 2019 accountability ratings, it included 9 schools with an F rating. This resulted in 5,062 students being currently enrolled in an F-rated campus. Due to the increase of improvement required now considered to be F-rated campuses, from 4 to 9, the percent of students attending an F-rated campus is 19%. The target for this school year was set at 0%. At this time, we're prepared to answer any questions that you may have for us.
Well, so I can tell you, the public, the rest of the board, that I have a kid in that 19%. I have a kid at a failing school. But we're to the point where 1 out of every 5 students are at a failing school. I mean, I don't think that there's anyone on this stage, there's not a staffer in MISD that thinks that that's acceptable. I believe that. I believe that no one, That said, we're going the wrong direction. And there's any number of factors, that go with that, but we have to continue to work to get to a point where we're closer to the 0 than the 19. It is not acceptable for the students in this district, the parents that pay their taxes, as school board members, as employees, as citizens, for 1 out of every 5 kids to be at a failing campus. It's just not okay, so.
I do have a comment, maybe much more a question.
Yes, sir.
To maybe Mr. Riddick. I don't know if somebody else got the mic on or not. But I guess my question would be, I know we are in a contract situation with our charter schools. One of the questions I pose to us, is that going to be a fix-it? Or are we going to wait to see the results of the ones that we're going into contract with? I guess going forward, looking at our numbers, do we feel like that's going to be a fix-all?
And I appreciate that question as we explore charters, as well as someone from the audience who brought that question to the table as well. And it's not a fix-all. That item is an opportunity to explore something very different. Speaking to the parent who spoke earlier about the school that their children are in, as well as trustees who sit at the table, it's to approach learning in an environment in a very different way. We won't have metrics on that for several years to see, is that approach the one as an offering of a choice to a community that wants to see learning done in this authentic way with a partner who comes on board. It's not the fix. I absolutely agree. We went from 4 to 9, so just knowing that, all the other metrics that measure what that looks like, we're going to go up. I have a principal who I do want you to hear from, because the schools that your kids are in, there is some amazing work that is occurring in those environments. And I would offer anyone to step into any of those campuses of 9 that are evaluated that way to determine, is this a campus that is failing? Now, do we have elements of work that have to exist within there? Absolutely, because the entire campus gets branded that way outside of what might be happening in small pockets or in certain grade levels, or in a grade level, or in a class in a grade level. It's where we are. We're very transparent around that. We're not hiding from it. I would tell you, we got some amazing principals who are doing dynamic work every day and fighting for your kids every day, despite the constraints that exist that we know. We know the cards, we know what's been dealt, and they're forging forward through that work. The aspect of our System of Great Schools work is to create a menu of options for our parents and to navigate in a very different way to think about the learning that you want, so you don't have to think about just the certain schools that you need to attend, and those are the only options that are viable. I would tell you, if you get engaged with your child at school, there is no school that will fail your child. If you plug in to a child, if you plug into where they're reading, if you plug into them socio-emotionally, there is something dynamic that comes out of that child no matter what the environment. And so we have to plug more into that, because we have kids who have gaps that are being filled by a number of individuals, and we need you, sir, to plug in and sit down, not just with your child, but others at lunch and in other areas, environments, and sit down and read and learn what's occurring. I'm going to ask the Scarborough principal to come forward, just to share with you, this is what's occurring in an environment. When you drive to the neighborhood, you think one thing, but what comes from the entire county forward, she takes on, and there are a number of things that are occurring in that campus that I'm very proud of. Going into her 2nd year, I'm very proud of the work that she's demonstrating, and I want you to hear what that looks like, and I would open up that opportunity for anyone to step on a campus and look, whether it be Sam Houston, whether it be Scarborough, whether it be Jones, or the other 6 that I have not mentioned, to step on there and see the work that's occurring. We have work to do. Don't take me wrong. We have work to do, and certainly we've got to go the other direction, because there's proof that it can happen. When a Bush Elementary goes from a mid-70s to a high 80s that has 50% economically disadvantaged kids, it mirrors what we look like as a district. I believe it can happen. I believe it's going to happen here. So I'm going to let Ms. Deanna Flatter just share with you just what's going on at Scarborough Elementary, a dynamic place that I get to visit, and a principal who's pushing the envelope.
Good evening, School Board President Davis and board members. Good evening, Superintendent Riddick. As he said, my name is Deanna Flotter. This is my second year as the principal at Scarborough Elementary School. I'm very excited to be here tonight and to share about the progress and the successes that we are seeing this school year. Scarborough is currently on an upward trend through the successful implementation of professional learning communities and Get Better Faster processes. This includes well-defined school cultures of high expectations for staff and students, instructional focus visits with teacher observation feedback, and data-driven instructional collaborative meetings. Our individual teachers and collaborative teams are analyzing student data and moving students towards their growth goals. I would like to share a few campus successes comparing student group performance from last school year to this school year performance from the first 9 weeks district checkpoints. So 4th grade reading, for example, last year at the approaches level was 52%. This year, currently at the approaches level, 64%. Meets at 4th grade reading level last year was 17%. This year is at 28%. Moving on, 4th grade math. We had last year meets 22%, this year 49%. Last year masters 4%, this year 31%. 5th grade reading. Last year we were at 47% approaches, and this year 68%. We had meets 15%, this year 34%. Last year, 7% masters for 5th grade reading, this year 22%. Moving on to 6th grade math, we had last year 55% approaches, this year 83%. Meets last year was at 30%, this year 44%. Last year, 9% at masters, and this year, 23%. So as you can see, we are moving forward and students are growing.
So you're getting a glimpse of the work that goes in every day to ensure that kids are striving to hit their success points, and we measure it, and we qualify it, and we have some very amazing teachers who come every day to ensure that that work is driving itself. We've implemented what we call the Relay Graduate School of Education work that talks about get better faster, that talks about teach like a champion, and the elements of what we have to do to structure and build our focus. We're into that implementation, and you see an example of a campus that should not be an F, without a doubt. And she understands this, because I've had this conversation with her, and it's my expectation, as well as hers, that that campus will get lifted, as well as a number of others. It's a dynamic leader who's engaged in pushing the envelope. It's a campus that previously had staffing elements that were in front of them, constraints we have to deal with. She overcame some of those constraints to start off as a staff school. Along the way, we have staff members that move because of family. We'll get more of that. She has that to contend with. Those who want to go to oil and gas, she has that to contend with. And despite that, she still has to push her successes. We need parents like you to get involved and get plugged in right there. You want to find something to do, get plugged right into your neighborhood school and find the student right there who has arrived who cannot read. That is the key. And if you can plug in that way with this individual who leads it, great things can happen. We do not want to be at 19. That number needs to drop down. We're going after that. I'm proud of the work that she's doing, as well as the other 8 who are navigating that work, and the team members who are encouraging what that could look like. They have accountability in regards to ensuring that that success happens, not just so we sit up here to celebrate, but so that when kids walk into the school in your neighborhood, you're very proud of what that is, and when you drive by, you feel that way. But I would challenge anyone here to go to any one of those 9 schools and walk in and declare it an F, because there's that kind of work that's occurring and happening right now, today, to ensure kids get lifted. We still have a ways to go. We'll still be measured. We'll still be very public about it in regards to how we manage it and how we take it on. but we need partners. It's easy to say that something is bad. It's complex to tell you how good something is because you have to defend it in a way that people think you're creating excuses. What I would say is get off the sidelines, get in the field, and partner with us in a way that take little ones like that to high places.
And I want to make a comment that, when the grading system came along, we as a board, if I remember correctly, we disagreed with the way PA was going through the eighth. I still disagree with it. I don't want the community or anyone that's not putting in the time to go in there and see to start labeling the school like that. Getting involved, it doesn't matter the metric system that we're using is grade. We're trying to move all children forward. We've come up with long-term covenants because we want to move all children forward. Now, did we come up with a perfect math? Did we come up with a perfect schedule? Did we come up with a perfect plan? Probably not. We came up with a plan to move forward, not backwards. And so, as a community, and I ask you to refer to getting into the early stages of the A-to-X system. There's a different metric now that the TA is looking at everything. So I ask you that don't get involved with you. Don't start using it as a label elementary or a school. Kids deserve better. Teachers deserve better. And just because there's a certain metric out there, just like at your workplace, everybody has the same metric at workplace, right? You don't want your boss knocking down because one day of the year you had a distance. So, I'm not trying to compare both systems, but at the end of the day, we want to be patient for our teachers and our students as we're going through the process.
First off, Ms. Flater, I want to say, that's Flater, is that right? Flatter. I want to say what you just went over sounded like great work, and I applaud you for what you're doing at your school. I kind of want to go back to what Tommy said because I think it's important, and I think we're jumping ahead a little bit on the agenda, but I want to get this out there too because I think it's valid. I know we're talking about 2 other charter schools coming up, and my thought when I got on the school board and we started talking about system of great schools, this was about autonomy. This is how we build up Ms. Flotter to give her the power at her school to make a change. This is how we give Mr. Fong at Bush the power, the autonomy to make changes at his school. And in my mind, I thought Fasken Elementary, Doc back there, I think I want to give him the ability to make his school great. And I don't know that us going about and adding these different charters and different things, that's not my goal of what we had as a system of great schools. That is an option, but I would like to see us, how are we, and I think it's also later in the agenda, how are we working to develop those principles to make those leaders what our teachers need at the schools, and that's how we make successful schools. I'm not all about all of these charters and trying and keep throwing things on the wall till something sticks. I don't think we need to do the same thing over and over again because that obviously hasn't worked for the last several years. But I agree with Tommy, Mr. Bishop, excuse me, that we need to see how some of this stuff works before we just keep jumping in. In the meantime, I applaud the work that's going on some of these campuses that you're making changes and you're really diving into data and making changes. My thought is the system of great schools for us as a board plan was out to 2027. And what I feel like is we keep pushing to get to this system of great schools, but in the meantime, we're not moving one student at a time to get to where that bar needs to be. And that's what I want us to focus on, is what is important right now and is making those students better students, that we see the growth that we need from last year to this year to next year. And so that is my thought, Mr. Rick, you're doing a great job. I'm not faulting what we're doing, but sometimes I think we're putting the cart before the horse, saying this is our goal, but do we have to do it all in the first 5 years? Do we not need to make sure we're moving the ball before we get to that? And that's what I would say.
And I appreciate that, Trustee Murray. So one of the elements that we have to think through is time. The other element that we have to think through is leadership and preparation for what that could look like to go down the pathway of autonomy, because currently right now we have 6 charters and they've been built internally with leaders currently inside. So when people are talking about, well, charters, well, there are our people who have built and been given this autonomy to go down this pathway. Now, we do have external charters that we want to learn from, that we want to partner with some of the best thinkers that are around the state, around the country, who we can see, can they help improve how we operate and how we think in a very different way? I think it's something to explore. I think it's something for us to dive into. And I'd love to give every principal exactly what you spoke to, Mr. Murray, is that time, that 5 years to develop themselves, because I believe we have talent internally, because it's evident. People want our talent internally, and they're going after it because they've been groomed in a very good way to be dynamic leaders. And I think it's a mix of what that looks like, and we need to manage what that mix looks like so that it doesn't feel like it's one thing or the other, but it certainly is this autonomy to think through that if we bring a partner external, that our internal family has the leverage and latitude to operate similarly and don't have any constraints through that operation. I think there is an ROI in regards to what that means for any external partners who do come into the district, and how they navigate, because it's not a grab, certainly not that, because we've said no to some that wanted to partner with us. And so I will work with the team to better balance what that looks like, because I think that's a component of that. Respecting the teachers that we do have, knowing the partners that are aligned through values and ethics and beliefs and standards that others spoke to earlier about. We want high performing. That's who we're talking to. We're not just talking to anybody. We want to be sure that we're talking to those individuals who have that concept built in internally, ingrained, and have metrics to qualify and quantify that.
In your presentation, I heard you underscore how you went about doing what you're doing.
Yes, sir.
At what point were you able to begin to uncover systemic problems that contributed to Scarborough's failing? Could you respond to that?
Yes, sir, I can. As Mr. Riddick had stated, we had some staffing situations last school year. That was a severe impact. We spend a lot of time focusing on quality Tier 1 instruction. With quality Tier 1 instruction, you need those quality leaders, those quality teachers in the classroom. So I spent ample time staffing over the summer, as he mentioned, to make sure we had those quality teachers in front of the students to teach, and so students can learn. We spent a lot of time looking at that Tier 1 instruction. Teachers working on videotaping themselves, reflecting. Also, I mentioned our collaborative meetings that we have amongst the staff. We take a lot of time for teachers to have valued, sacred time throughout the school day that teachers can meet, plan, and discuss student data and come up with a plan to move them forward.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you for that explanation, because I think one of the things that we need to keep in mind is most of the community, it seems to me, are not looking inside. A few years back, I recall very clearly, community came to the board then demanding something new, something different, innovation. And what comes along with that, and we got it, I'm not a big proponent of charters. That's another discussion altogether. But we got that request being fulfilled in the process. But it's not going to happen overnight. And I think that's what the community needs to understand. And I hope that you principals will continue to share the things that you identify as being systemic contributors to why we have 9 failing schools. Number 3, I guess, is my next point. Stop branding kids. As communities, stop branding communities from where these kids originate, and take the challenge of working with them and their parents, and stop making misinformed conclusions about why we are failing. I appreciate what you're doing.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Any other questions?
I would like to just conclude by saying that every one of our F-rated campuses is also engaging in a continuous improvement TA model process through an effective schools framework. And they've all engaged in a very extensive data analysis process, followed by a self-assessment, which informed the development of a targeted improvement plan, which outlines strategies, milestones, checkpoints, action steps, and which monitors student success, and it's also monitored by the TA. Our campuses know that 90% of students at approaches, 60% of students at meets, and 30% at masters will lead to a letter A rating. And if our campuses continue with these successes and these percentages that you just heard, it will turn these numbers around. We're very confident of that. Is there any more questions for us? If not, then this concludes our presentation.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the work.
Thank you.
All right, 5B, academic update, dual language report. Ms. Maya, welcome.
Good evening, Board President Davis, Board of Trustees, Superintendent Riddick. Tonight I'm going to present to you a quick update on the initial implementation of the one-way dual language program. A couple of months ago, I presented to you information regarding our data and how our department, our English learners, are really increasing in performance across the board. As a department, we really have engaged in quite a bit of restructure to see those academic gains in our students. And so this evening, I'd like to introduce some of my team members who are, as a leader, as a former principal, as an executive director right now. I'm always very faithful in using my skills with what I call distributed leadership. So as a leader, it's nearly impossible for me to manage almost 4,000 students. And so my team is vitally important in their work. And so tonight I invited all that could come, so I'm going to introduce them quickly. So I have Ms. Liz Varela. She's our Director of Translation Services and Family and Student Engagement. I also have our elementary supervisor. She helps all elementaries that serve ESL and bilingual students, Priscilla Villegas. Secondary supervisor, she assists junior highs and high schools with students who are newcomers to this country, as well as ESL students, and that is Carol Bamford. I also have, she used to do a lot of paperwork, but I changed her job for this year. We didn't get a new person, but Alma Torres Miller, she is our dual language program coordinator. She spends quite a bit of time in pre-KK and first grades, first grade classrooms that are being, that are implementing the dual language program. I also have Alonso Garcia, and he is an LPAC facilitator. And I thank him so much for coming this evening. I know they have their families. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to dual language is only one of our initiatives this year. It is our goal to implement it at a very high level. So why dual language? As you know, Ben Milam International Academy started the two-way dual language program, and I was tasked with assisting Ms. Vermia in that. And so as I was reviewing the literature, I honestly couldn't wait to begin implementation in our regular bilingual classrooms. So the reason for that is that there's really a large body of research that suggests and that show over and over that dual language programs yield a lot higher academic performance in English learners than other programs. So TEA published this study in January. And so what do we know? What does research say about dual language programs? So over the years, there really has been a persistent academic achievement gaps in high school graduation rates, as well as academic performance of English learners. Also, there was a study that included 6 million English learners, and they were educated through 7 different program models, and out of the 7, the dual language program really yielded higher academic performance gains and really closed the gap. As recently as this year, with the passage of House Bill 3, even TEA is incentivizing districts who are implementing the dual language program. I really didn't know this when I proposed this to implement it, but we take the extra funds just as well. So every student who's in a dual language program receives $308 more than any other bilingual or ESL programs. So what is a one-way dual language program? The one-way dual language program is a bilingual program in which students who are native speakers of a language other than English, which in our district is Spanish, they use their primary language and English to learn content and language simultaneously. So, and there are 3 goals of the dual language immersion programs, and the first one is bilingualism and biliteracy. So our program offers a very robust Spanish language arts reading instruction, and then we quickly, starting in pre-K, start adding the English literacy skills. So we find what's similar in both languages and we start teaching it, as opposed to our prior program that delayed the teaching of English. Goal number 2 is grade level academic achievement in both program languages. So our program offers math instruction in Spanish and in English at separate times of the day. So our kids begin in pre-K learning math, and eventually we will move them up to the point where when they get to 3rd and 4th grade, 5th grade, they will receive 50% of their instruction in English and 50% of their instruction in Spanish. Additionally, goal number 3, it focuses on social cultural competence. So our program offers multiple opportunities to celebrate the different cultures represented in our classrooms through literature. So this year, starting in pre-K, our students receive 90% of their instruction in English and 10%, I'm sorry, I said that backwards. 90% of their instruction in Spanish and 10% in English. So it amounts to about 30 to 35 minutes of English instruction daily. And then in kindergarten, we move on to 80% of Spanish instruction, 20% English, and that amounts to about 70 to 75 minutes of English instruction. In first grade, we have 70% of Spanish instruction with 30% English instructions, and that amounts to about 105 minutes. This year, we are not introducing dual language to second, third, fourth, or fifth grades. Those, second and third will come next year, and the others will follow. So it's a little bit of a mind shift, so we need to take it slow. Like I said, I want to implement it at a high level, and therefore we took it just with 3 grade levels. So here are the campuses that offer the one-way dual language program. So we have Bonham, Bunch, Burnett, Fasken, De Zavala, Lamar, Long, Peace, South, and Travis. And like I said, they offer pre-K for bilingual students. We are now having dual language instruction. And then in kindergarten and first grade as well. So along with implementing a program at a high level, there are some non-negotiables that have to come with that. And for us as a department, it is critical that we have continuous dual language teacher planning and collaboration. Up to now, we've had many collaborative meetings with our teachers regarding instruction in both languages, regarding the amount of time. I and our coordinator have spent lots and lots of time in classrooms observing, providing feedback. Also, it is a non-negotiable that our daily schedule reflects and that we implement English language literacy skills every single day. We don't need to wait till our kids get older. We really need to do it as early as pre-K. Also, we include implementation of math in English. Our kids were not used to that up until this year, as early as pre-K and K. We also have word walls that reflect English vocabulary, and I mean, those are non-negotiables. They have to be connected continuously to academic vocabulary. We also have what we call pared de palabras, because it's a dual language classroom, so we have both language is represented as we teach different concepts. Math vocabulary, also Spanish and English. And very important, daily content and language objectives have to be posted as the lessons are in progress. Do y'all have any questions regarding the dual language implementation?
Yo le tengo una pregunta.
Okay. Claro que sí. Después de todos los estudios de investigación que se han... no, nuestro distrito ya está un poquito tarde. Muchos distritos lo han hecho hasta por 20 años. Would you like a translation?
Please.
I just wanted to tell him that I do know Spanish well. Actually, the dual language program is really not new. He was asking, what year, when did that research come or surface? The research really surfaced many years ago. So as we were doing the research to launch the dual language program at Milam, we really visited campuses that have been in existence for 20 years, and those campuses, regardless of what accountability system we're in, they perform at an A level. Now we have letter grades, but before that we have an acceptable, exemplary, whatever the accountability system is. Really, all those programs have rise to high level of performance. So it is not a new thing.
And part of the work was that we wanted to go see, again, exemplar work. We wanted to see people who were performing at the highest level. What could we learn from them? As we were going to get out of a late model and get into a one-way dual language, which if I can get you your proficiency in your native language, I can get your transition to happen much faster. And you'll see this where we're presenting that where Ms. Maya is saying that the kids in dual language programs are outperforming their peers. And if I can get you strength in your native language, I can get you to outperform anyone who speaks whatever other language when you're comparing yourself with literature and with math. And so it's not new, it's just not something we've had. And so now it's about how can we fully immerse ourselves in a program designed by the team to go after what could be great work for a group of students that deserve the best of what we have to offer.
And that really is the purpose, high academic achievement. We visited a number of districts, and like I said, Midland ISD has become sort of a mentor for us. They have allowed us to come and visit in Canutillo and El Paso. Both are high-performing districts, and their bilingual campuses are as well. Any other questions?
Le quiero dar un comentario que se mira muy bien el programa y tengo mucha fe que lo que están haciendo, esa sabiduría se ha sabido por muchos años y lo malo es que lo siento que viene tan tarde para este distrito, pero les quiero decir en español que es muy importante el trabajo que están haciendo y les doy el apoyo que necesitan para que sigan haciéndolo porque yo sé que van a salir con muy alto calificaciones. Muchas gracias. I'll try to repeat what I said in English. I just said that I'm very proud of them for the information and the structure they're bringing. Once again, this is another program coming to Midland ISD. Unfortunately, this knowledge has existed for a long time. The stuff with bilingual education has existed for a long time. I said I'm sorry that in a sense we're kind of late to the game, but once again, this is another fine program that's coming to Midland ISD, and you're going to see a lot of success. Now, is it going to be built between here and, April, May, you're going to see success, but it's going to take time for that foundation to continue growing. So I just told them that I really appreciate all their effort and to know how important the work is as they're leading this program forward. Thank you.
Just as a note, we have identified, we always start with the exemplar. We already identified some model classrooms, and we are going to ensure that it's not only those that come naturally. There's some talented teachers out there, and any framework that you put in front of them, they will make work. Well, we are taking those exemplars, and we are going to replicate as fast as we can. Any other questions tonight?
When do we get our rating as a bilingual?
So I got news Friday. They're very, very pleasant, and they are really for another board report. But last year, we received our federal accountability stage rating was a 4, the highest, the worst that you could possibly have. And this is preliminary information, but we just received our new one, and our stage is a 0, which is the best possible score that you could receive. I did go, I'm telling you, data is what I live by, and so I reviewed the report. We made progress. 19 out of 27 indicators that were measured, we made progress as a department, and so I'm very, very proud of that. Like I said, that's for another board report, but I'm really, really glad not to have to write a plan this year.
Well, congratulations. We look forward to hearing more about that board report. Thank you for all your work. All right. Next is District Report, Agenda Item 5C, an Apply Midland demonstration. Ms. Ware, welcome.
Good evening, President Davis, trustees, Superintendent Riddick. Thank you for this opportunity to come and share just a brief overview with you for our new online application system that we're calling Apply Midland. As part of our as we work to become a system of great schools, one of the pillars of our work is knowing our schools. And through the listen and learn sessions, we learned that our families want more options in schools for their children to attend. And while we have worked to provide these options, we know that families are not always aware of what's out there and what's available to their students. Earlier this fall, we sent a survey to every parent, every family that applied for either a choice school, for a magnet, or for a transfer, and we asked them to tell us about their experience. And one thing that became clear very quickly was that families were not aware of all the different options that are available to their students. So Apply Midland is an online application system. It's a one-stop shop where our families can go online, learn about the schools that we have, and learn about every school in our district, and then actually use the system to apply to attend a school of choice, a magnet school, or submit a request for a transfer. This new system is going to help us streamline our process with the one-stop shop that I mentioned, where families will be able to access the information and complete a single application for all the different options that we have here in our district. Apply Midland is a system that is defined by the following values. We want equity. The Apply Midland system will ensure that families have access to information about the schools so they can better understand their options. It's more efficient. An Apply Midland system will allow MISD families to apply to several schools using one application rather than filling out a single application per school of choice or magnet. Families will also be able to receive their match results on a one timeline. To better serve our families, it's critical that all schools share an application and a common timeline. We've been a little all over the place, so this will align our processes, and we'll make sure that families have all the relevant information they need to make the best choices for their students. There are two components to our system. The first part is the School Finder, and that system launched this past Wednesday on December 11th. This is basically the yellow pages of MISD. Families can go on and look at a campus page for every single campus. It includes basic information, principal name, address, school colors, uniforms. It also gives demographic information, and then we've included our campus scorecard, which is the school performance framework, and also TEA ratings are also included on each campus page.
You know, I want to applaud you again and the district for, once again, you know, I hear we're not being transparent.
Right.
So this is providing more information about what the school situation is and, you know, where we're at in the status. So I appreciate that.
And Mr. Marquez, can I interrupt you just for a second? I appreciate you bringing that up because I missed two parts on my slide about the values, and transparency is one of those. Our school performance framework, we're not hiding behind anything, and the school performance framework puts that there where families can go on and learn about every single campus and exactly where they stand, not only through the TEA ratings, but through the school performance framework, and also in the future, next year, we'll include our school quality reviews where an outside entity comes in, visits our campuses, and provides them a rating. So you're right, transparency is important. And then the fourth value that I missed was access, making sure that our families are completely aware of all the many options that we have here in our district. If it's okay, I'd like to take you through just a brief demonstration of our system and show you how families will access this. This is the School Finder that I'm showing you. When families exit, and this is all on our Midland ISD website, there are three ways for them to find a school. The first way is to enter their address. When you enter your address, it then pulls up schools in order first, it's all by distance, but it's your schools that you're zoned to, followed by any schools of choice or magnets, and then all other options that you could apply for a transfer to attend. So those all come up by distance. If you want to search by school name, you can also do that. And I'm going to walk you through one of those just so you can see what a campus page looks like. Sorry, I'm happy. Thank you. So this is General Tommy Franks Elementary. As you can see, there's just our basic information, our principal's name, the grades that are served here, the school type, school hours, if they're required to wear a uniform. And as you go down it, you can learn more about it. Every principal was asked to provide points of pride, and so you have a blurb here about each campus and what they offer. As you go further down, you have the school performance framework showing their overall SPF rating, as well as their domain rating in performance, progress, and learning environment. As I said earlier, our school quality review scores will be coming in next year. We just had those campus visits, and that rating will be coming out next year. And then you also have your TEA overall rating that every campus receives. And you have demographic information where families can go on and learn about the campus. You have programs and services, if there's an extended school day, and on, where families can just go on and learn more about it. And I'm sure these pages will grow as we develop them. Principals will be allowed to come back and add more information of the different things that they have available on their campus. And then I want to take you through the third way that you can look at
I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
How often is that information updated?
It can be updated at any time. But as far as like the ratings, those would come out once a year.
No, I'm talking about like your student enrollment, those numbers, if parents are out there looking.
I'm sorry. From snapshot day. So once we have that data, we would update it.
And maybe I missed it, so it's also out there showing if there's if a transfer is allowed to that campus or they're full, at what grades is it telling that, like the gentleman spoke earlier?
So that information would not be on the school finder. I mean, it has the enrollment there, overall and their demographics. As far as applying, I apologize, ask me again.
Okay, just like the gentleman spoke earlier about, I think he said a first grader, maybe a fourth grader. So if he went to General Franks, would he be able to see that if those campuses are available, if that campus is available for a first grader and a fourth grader, or are they maxed out as far as capacity? That way they're not chasing rabbits all over the place trying to...
That part wouldn't be covered in the school finder. That would be covered in the school application portal that comes in January.
Thank you.
And then let me just walk you I just want you to see the guided search. This tool helps our families narrow down what it is that's important to them as far as a school. So it takes them through some specific questions that they can answer. So for example, I'm going to pick 7th grade, and I'm going to enter my address. Don't anybody come visit me. The next set of questions, it's asking me if I need any of these special services. If I've received bilingual education, English as a second language service, if my child is currently placed in a self-contained special education classroom setting for life skills or for behavior adjustment skills. Now I'm going to say that my student, yes?
One other question.
Yes, sir.
Is this going to be in Spanish or other languages?
Yes, sir. If you'll notice at the top of the page, you can translate it. It says English in the top right-hand corner.
Okay.
I can change that to Spanish. And if it needs to be adapted to other languages, we can do that on a case-by-case basis. Okay. So I'm going to say that my student does not need any services. So then it's going to talk to me about what academic services that I'm interested in. And so for my student, I'm going to say I'm interested in advanced placement. There's other things, college prep, AVID, different options that the families might be interested in, or if they just want to learn about them, where those services are provided. And then it comes in for 6th grade and up, it's going to ask about student-selected programs. This would not be a question for elementary grades, but for our secondary, it will ask this. So I'm going to say that I am interested in cross-country, and I will say drill team and fine arts. So those are my choices. So then by distance from my address, it's going to show me my best options based on what I said was important to me as a family or for my student. And so the first one that comes up is Goddard, and it tells me right here, if you'll see right next to the name, it says this school serves 3 of the 4 of the programs and services that I selected. Alamo's the same. San Jacinto serves 2 out of the 4. And one thing else I want to point out, so notice with Goddard, it's telling me that's a transfer school for me. So for my child to attend Goddard, I'd have to apply for a transfer. Same with Alamo. San Jacinto is the school that I'm zoned to based on where I live. Young Women's would be a school of choice that I could apply to. And then Abel is a transfer school. So by distance, it's showing me how the schools that are available to me, and also based on the criteria that I said was important to me as a family. Any questions about that?
And from there, you can click on the school and get all that information you showed us earlier about each
Absolutely.
campus, is that right?
So let's just click on Young Women's right here. Same thing. Now, Young Women's will not have the school performance framework as they're a new campus and they don't have, and they don't have that information yet, or the TEA rating. But you can see it has, every campus page has a picture of the outside of the school and their logo. The basic information that we mentioned earlier, principal, phone number, mascot, all, they're working on voting in a mascot. Each principal provided the blurb, the points of pride. And then as you can see here, Young Women's doesn't have this yet because they're a new school. But then the rest of the information is listed here.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So I showed, how do I go back? Yes, sorry. Thank you, Mike.
So, and maybe Dr. Kale can answer this, but, so we started this process. This, I mean, what you're showing today didn't appear yesterday or last week or last month. I mean, when did we start talking about this? Because I know we went to Denver and there were some visits about that. I mean, can you speak kind of like a timeline, how long it took to develop this and the support that we received in order to develop and move Midland in this fashion?
Yes, sir. We've been in discussions about this for about 2.5 years, and we've been in the implementation stage for probably about 5 months. We've been on an extremely fast timeline to get this done. The company that we're working with, we've put them in cardiac mode, as well as most people in the district, at the speed that we're moving. But it's the best thing we can do for our families, and that's why it's important that we move quickly, and we have had lots of support to get this done. And Melissa's going to show you exactly the support we've received internally just to get this done.
But before I do that, I just want to give you some important dates. As I told you, our School Finder launched last week on December 11th. Our application will open on January 21st, where families will be able to go in and apply to any school of choice, any magnet, or submit a request for a transfer. Round 1 of applications will close on February 29th. Our Round 2 application will open on March 16th. Offers will be sent to families by email and text on April 1st. And then they will have 7 calendar days to accept or deny their offers, accept or decline their offers. And then Round 2 will close in the month of July. And what will happen for Round 2 is, based on availability and where we have openings for our schools of choice and magnets, those applications will stay open. Transfers will also stay open during that time.
I know we do have a lot of social media. Is that any way that can be put out on social media?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a vigorous communications plan behind these launches.
Thank you.
And like Dr. Kale said, this certainly wasn't a small effort. It was a heavy lift, and we had many people throughout the district. And I want to give them a shout out that this truly was a team effort for us to come together and put all the information that we needed to build this system. And such a sophisticated system can truly help increase our communication with our community and make sure that they're aware of what's out there, and also align the steps throughout the process. And it's going to take a couple of years for us to implement this system district-wide, but we just wanted to provide a brief overview of the direction we're moving.
Well, thank you, because once again, this is another fine program that's coming to Midland ISD that has taken a lot of time. It took 2.5 years to get to this point. You're going to get people will get to see the benefits of it now, but it takes years sometimes to build that proper foundation so we can move forward. When we start talking about this, there's only certain school districts in the nation that had this type of capability. So we're moving as fast as we can to get there to some of the top schools in the country to provide some of the best choices to Midland. So I really appreciate the district and the staff and Mr. Riddick for bringing this to Midland ISD. And obviously I want to tell our board members, thank you for supporting it. And as we move forward, because it's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort to bring some of this system of great schools and move the district forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you.
It's a lot of work, Ms. Ware. I know you led it, so I know you had a lot of people helping you, but thank you very much. This is terrific.
Thank you.
All All right, the next two items are district reports, report only unless the board has any questions. 5D, innovation update. Any questions about that, board members? All right, we'll move to 5E, another report only item, staffing update. Page 121 on our meeting packet. Any questions about that? All right, then we'll move to our discussion action items. 6A, consider approval of a resolution authorizing execution of bond counsel engagement.
Mr. Davis, I'd move that we table this item as it pertains to the bond, and there's a lot of, as you said, there's questions are being answered, but this is clearly premature, so I'd like to table anything related to the bond on this agenda.
All right, motion by Mr. Trischetti. Second by Mr. Bishop. As part of the discussion, I would note, people have asked, well, why is this on here tonight? There's two reasons why it was on the agenda for tonight. This one along with discussion action item 6C. These are the first two preliminary items that you do before you move forward on a bond. The reason why it was on the agenda this evening is because today, we knew that we were going to open the newly discovered ballot box and determine if there were any missing ballots in there. If there were not any missing ballots, then the next thing was going to begin today, if not be concluded today, was we were going to access the digital photocopies on the voting machines themselves. They're supposed to have taken a digital copy of each ballot, run through them. And we were going to look at those photocopies today with both sides of the bond issue, if you will, present, and determine whether we were in fact missing ballots and more investigation had to be done, or whether we found duplicate ballots, and the duplicate ballots would be the explanation and the recount was correct. If we had found that today, then I think we would have felt more comfortable moving forward, and so it was on the agenda in the event that we got those answers today. The second reason, however, is on the ballot is in the event we did find missing ballots, either in the newly discovered box or in the photocopies that were not duplicates, which we found the former today. We found ballots from this election in the newly discovered ballot box today. Then we would have the opportunity to table this. Why put it on there if you think it's a possibility that you would table it? The reason is that because I know there's been lots of talk out there and allegations that we're moving full speed ahead on doing lots of things behind the scenes to move forward on the bond, and this will be an opportunity to show that these are two very public things that you got to do first to move forward, and by tabling it we would show the public that we were not moving forward. And so because the sequence of events today led us to find there are missing ballots that have been found, then we are going to table, I believe we're going to table this item and the next one, 6C, that comes up regarding this. So that's the explanation. Y'all ready for a vote? All right, all those in favor of tabling 6A, please raise your hand. It's unanimous. The next item is not to be tabled. It's 6B. Consider adoption of an order authorizing redemption of certain outstanding bonds. And that's redemption of certain outstanding bonds, not issuance of new bonds. But Ms. Moss, welcome.
Thank you. No, sir. Mr. Davis, board members, Mr. Riddick, thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Davis. We are talking about redeeming bonds, which is about our existing debt that we have right now. As of June 30, we were at $200 million in existing debt, and this is to redeem some of that debt. So hopefully I have good news tonight for you. As part of our debt management plan, we met with the board finance committee on December the 9th. Mr. Bishop, Mr. Kennedy, and Mr. Murray were in attendance, and we talked through with our financial advisor, George Williford of Hilltop, and our current bond counsel was there as well, Mr. Jerry Kyle with Oric, and they presented the finance committee with the information regarding this redemption. So that I don't miss anything, I would like to, just for the record, read that executive summary that I provided. The district series 2011 bonds are callable beginning February 15, 2020. This means that principal can be prepaid beginning on that date. The Series 2011 bonds have $15.445 million principal outstanding after the February 2020 principal payment. The remaining principal payments extend through 2028. based upon taxable value for the current year and the INS tax rate of 8 cents. The district expects to have additional INS revenues above the requirement for debt service in 2020. It is planned to utilize $10.785 million of INS funds to redeem that amount of future principal of the Series 2011 bonds on February 15, 2020. That will fully retire the 2024 through 2028 maturities and will also retire $485,000 of the 2023. This prepayment or redemption of principal will reduce or save future interest costs by approximately $3 million. The use of $10.785 million toward this redemption will leave the balance of the INS fund at approximately the same level as the beginning of the fiscal year. The Series 2011 bonds will have $4.66 million of remaining principal with scheduled maturities 2021 through 2023. This remaining principal can either be paid as a scheduled or it can be redeemed from excess funds that may be available in the future. One note that I will add is that when we make our bond payments twice a year, the interest payments are paid in August of the fiscal year, and we pay an interest payment and a principal payment in February every year. I'm glad to answer any questions.
First, I'd like to say, Ms. Moss and Mr. Riddick, I appreciate the work that you all have done with your staff. It takes a lot of hours and a lot of thinking across the board to make things like this happen. And one of the things that I want to do, even a board member and as a taxpayer, one is being transparent with taxpayers' money to let our public and our community know that we're trying to move forward and being proactive in trying to save the district and taxpayers' monies.
So just to be clear, we're gonna pay off roughly two-thirds of the 2011 bonds, and in doing so, save a little over $3 million in interest in doing so. Is that right?
Yes, and actually, we'll pay off all but that. Right about $4 million. In February, we'll pay a little of the interest on that. You're looking at the $17 million, so that number will go down. And so what's left on that issue will be right around $4 million.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions? This is an action item.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Fuller, second by Mr. Marquez. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Moss. All right, the next agenda item, 6C, 2019 Bond Project Management Model and Selection of Construction Delivery Methods.
Reasons stated previous.
Motion to table by Mr. Trischetti.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bishop. Same remarks as before applies to this one. All those in favor? Oh, yes, Brian? Mr. Murray?
I just wanted to say one thing. It's relevant. It's really apparent that and I probably should stay away from this, but being on social media, how much distrust, or at least half of our community has in this school board. And I take offense to that because I joined this board to help kids. I joined this board to help teachers. When we get accused of being biased or being fraudulent, of taking ballots, that's not who we are as Midlanders. That's not who we are as a community. And I have no interest in that. When I talked to Brandy at the MRT this afternoon, we want to get this right. And this is way more important than you win and I lose, or I win and you lose. This was about our kids. And if we need to go back to the drawing board, we will do that. But I think at this time, we're just playing the process. People say, well, why did you canvass the election? Why did you do that? You didn't have to do that. Well, state law told us we had to. And Mr. Glendale, as far as voting yes or no, I don't know if that was an option to vote no. But I promise you, it wasn't because of lack of interest or that we were dropping the ball on what our duty was as school board members, because that's not it at all. I take a lot of offense because we volunteer hours and hours. And Mr. Davis especially, is the time he's put into this. Was he a proponent of the bond? Absolutely. Did we all probably vote for it? Probably. I don't know. I don't know how everybody voted. But the thing is, we want what's best for kids, and we want what's best for this community. And to sit here and be blasted day in and day out on social media about what we do as school board members, I don't have any interest in that. I didn't run to do this. I started volunteering in schools to help my kids at PTAs because why? I wanted to be at their schools. I wanted to be a part of their lives, and I wanted to make something better for other kids that were their friends. That's the same reason I got on the school board. And so for us to sit here and take over and over and over again because we have different opinions, and I'll go out on record because some of you know, some of you don't know. I was on the committee the whole time. I missed 2 meetings in that whole process. The last one was one of them because it was my son's 19th birthday. But I sat through every one of those meetings, and Mr. Davis can attest, Mr. Riddick can attest, Mr. Coach Felt could attest. I had a different opinion on the way this bond should look. I presented it to the community committee. Did I win? Absolutely, I did not win. But what I made a vow to that group was we had a consensus that we went about choosing what the bond looked like. When we had to vote 1 through 8, 8 was being, I will not support this, I will not be in this ballpark with you. I chose 6 because I didn't like the plan. I didn't think it was the best plan for us. But what 6 said is there's this community group, and the feedback we were getting from surveys said this is the plan that our community wanted. So my vote of 6 said this is not the plan I would prefer, but I'm going to go along because I'm going to be supportive because this is that important to our kids. And I know if we come to a point and we get to this contest and we know that this bond didn't pass, which if it doesn't, it's okay. We'll go back and do a better bond, and we'll figure it out, and we'll make it where everybody wants to do it. But this is not us against you, against anybody. There was no intentions of that whatsoever from this board. Well, I'm speaking for myself, but I believe that my fellow board members felt the exact same way. We wanted what was best for the students of MISD. Does new buildings help education? It absolutely. You cannot say empirically that it's going to correlate. But what it does, and I think what we heard Ms. Flotter say, was the number one problem she had at her school was staffing. Well, how do you get people to your building? You get leadership, and you have quality materials, supplies, and classrooms available so that those teachers feel like they can make a difference. I live with a teacher. I know how hard it is. I know the defeat when she comes home at night and says, I've got to teach that lesson again. My kids didn't get it. What we've got to do as a community is get back behind our teachers, get behind our students, and do what's best for all of us. And I just want to say that because that's really heavy on my heart. That would it pass? If it passed, was I happy? Yes. At this point, if it fails, am I happy? Maybe, because I just want finality so we can move to the next step and get rid of some of this hatred, maybe a bad word, but this language that we've treated each other with. I tried all along to put out facts about things, and when I saw people didn't agree with the facts, that's your opinion. I'm not trying to express my opinion on you, because I don't know how many people actually called me and said, what is your opinion, Mr. Murray? I know 1 or 2 did. But the thing is we're going to get it right. We didn't have this problem with the ballot boxes and all that, because if you were there or if you watched the video of us at the canvass election, I asked Ms. Land, are you sure you've counted for all the boxes? Do you know you have them? Point blank, I asked her, and she said, yes, sir, we do. Well, our intention of going on with 800 vote difference was not to get something done and say we won and you lost. It was literally to move on, because that's what the state told us we needed to do. Did we think there was a contest coming? Absolutely. Mr. Davis said in his quote before I even talked to Brandy today that he was thinking that it needed to be tabled. Well, I mentioned to him, I think it was Saturday morning, when in a response to an email, I think it ought to be tabled too. I don't think we can go. And that was before what we found this morning. But we're on your side. We're all on the same side. So let's get together, and if this doesn't pass, let's do it right. If it does pass, then let's get on board and let's move forward and let's make it the best we can. And that's what I had to say.
You know what? I want to add a little bit to that because, I felt so much frustration from this because people have accused me of taking money from the road bond that Midland passed. I mean, I've been accused of everything, that I'm taking money from the city, I'm taking money from other taxing entities, and I keep explaining to people, if I were to do that, I'd go to jail. I'd go to jail for the stuff that you're accusing me of. I would go to jail. I'm gonna tell you something, and I don't get into it with it, but I served the military, and one thing you don't do is you don't go around breaking laws at every whim of your life. And for people to accuse me that I'm breaking laws, it's very disheartening, and at no time have we done anything illegal. It's all been by process that all elections have been held before. And if we, as a board, were allowed to pick and choose winners and losers, then that would introduce discriminatory practices across every board in the state of Texas. The law is clear because it doesn't allow you to go around and say, you know what, I lost this time, let's do this to push it off. No, the law is clear. It doesn't allow you to go around being discriminatory about what you're going to vote on and what you're not going to receive on and hearsay. There's a reason why the law is clear, because you need to vote according to what the county results are handed forward to you. The county has come out and said it is our sole responsibility for this election and what's happened to it. They have publicly come out and said that, and people are still coming to me and saying that we have done something illegal and fraudulent. I'm so discouraged that, I'm one of the persons that I don't even want to get near the actual building itself. I don't want nobody saying that they saw me there and I was the one, that's the kind of phobia that's driving in me, because to think that somebody's going to accuse me of going over there and maliciously changing something for my benefit, I would like for people that come up with those accusations and have said that to me that would rethink their process and what they say, because it's hurtful.
Just on another note, I guess listening to Mr. Murray and Mr. Monica speak on that part as far as the bond, there was a lot that went on, and there was a lot of work put on by both sides, whether you were for or whether you was against it. And I know there's an opportunity. Things happen for a reason. And this ballot box that come up today to show that there was some other ballots out there is a way for it's going to be a healing process for all of us, whether you was for the bond or whether you were against the bond, to go back and mend. There was friendships broken over this same behavior because one person wanted something and the other one didn't. So things happen for a reason. There's an opportunity to come together for Midland to stand out as an organization, whether we're board members, whether you're employees or you're taxpayers, because in the end result, it's all about the kids. And that's the reason, all the years that I've served on the board, I don't have any other reason for doing what I do. It's because of the love I have for kids, or for children. I coach baseball, Pop Warner football, and my wife even volunteered me to do girls softball one year. So it's all about the kids, and I think this is just another opportunity for us as a group to come together as a team, because if we're not pulling together as a team, we pull in different directions where we're not going to be successful, and the only ones that's going to hurt in the end is going to be MISD children. So going forward, whether the outcome is for or against, I think it's an opportunity to start putting Band-Aids and putting healing back on each other, and looking for ways and having ideas going forward. If it doesn't go, what's our next step? What are we going to do? Because the longer we wait, it's going to cost taxpayers, myself included, it's going to cost us more. And some people say more don't matter, but it does when we all look at the big picture. So I'm hoping that we can come together as a family. Everybody's going to agree to disagree, but we can't play the whipping game. What's in it for me? We got to look at what's in it for best for children. So that's what I have, Mr. Davis.
Mr. Davis, I think one thing that we all need to remember, and I ditto everything that's been said by my fellow board members, and that thing, something that we need to remember, is that we are being victimized as a community by history. School boards have always been the scapegoat for mismanagement and all the other misses that would be associated with board members. The process that we should overcome is being dominated by that historical fact. Social media has just made the victimization more sophisticated. It's the young people of this community that we should be focusing on.
Are we ready for the vote?
Yes, sir.
All right, this is the vote to table. All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. It's tabled. Item 6C. All right, our last discussion action item before closed session is 6D, 2019 Call for Quality Schools Process Recommendations. Information begins on page 147 of the meeting packet. Ms. Kale, welcome.
Thank you, President Davis, trustees, and Superintendent Riddick. Following the Call for Quality Schools process that we've had in the past, which has brought forward programs, talent, whole school models, and program opportunities to better serve our kids, we are following that process this year. We had 9 applicants this past school year. From those, 5 entities moved forward to a screening committee to interview. From that, we've had 2 move forward in the process. We actually had a 3rd that was going to move forward, but with the opportunity that we had come forward with opportunity culture, we pulled that to make sure that we weren't duplicating efforts in that process. So our process requires a formal recommendation from the superintendent, from the committee, and then a recommendation to you, the board, to allow us just to continue negotiations for a potential partnership. We are not sealing a partnership at this point. We are only looking at possible opportunities and what that might look for, what that might look for our district. We are also not ready to name any schools at this point, but we are on a TEA timeline if needed, and we want to be able to make sure that we can meet that timeline if it's necessary. So at this point, we are only asking to continue negotiations at this point.
Dr. Kale, are there any, is everyone that's on the interview committee drawing a check from MISD? Are there any PTA presidents or community, or how's the makeup of that committee?
We did not have any community members this year. We do have some campus representation. Campus representation, I think this year they were both instructional specialists, one elementary and one junior high. We were on a brand new timeline this year that we're trying to get used to.
At some point, will you have community participation?
Absolutely. Before we take any actions at a campus, we would definitely have multiple community sessions along with parents.
So I take it we should take these items up separately, the first one being the negotiation with FEMA, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I was distracted.
There are, I think, 2 recommendations. Correct, and so I guess because you've
Just
addressed one, you want to take these up separately, I take it, is that right? That makes sense, I
They
think.
can go together?
You're on a different timeline than we did in the past?
For Call for Quality this year, we did it in the fall, and in the past, we've done it in the spring.
And remind everybody why we changed the timing?
We changed the timing due to TEA timelines for entering into 1882 partnerships. The deadline for that is March 31st. So if we have a campus that we see that it would best benefit the students and staff and families of that community, then we have to have all contracts completed and submitted to the agency by March 31st, which means y'all have to have those pretty much approved before March. So that gives us 2 months.
We're just saying, keep talking. You're going to come back to us in February and say, this is...
Correct.
We'd like to make X campus the next term.
So as part of our due diligence around the Call for Quality Schools is not just to go out and vet who are high potential partners that we want to think about, whose values and morals and ethics and beliefs are aligned. We want them to visit us, and thus that's the interviewing process, and we want to go visit them as well to ensure not just what you say on paper, but you deliver it on top of that. And so we've done that with one entity out of Denver. We're looking at doing that with another entity out of Indianapolis, scheduled to leave tomorrow, snowed in. So we've canceled that trip and moving that trip to a later date. So this just allows us to continue in that due diligence negotiation stage. We will bring all this back to you as well when we come to finalize to say that we want to move forward with this group or this entity. This is a whole school model in regards to where we're thinking a campus fits with this model best. We have, I have several campuses that I'm thinking through, but I want to be sure that team members, community, everyone is aligned as to the why.
Is there a reason
There we go. Is there a reason that we would choose these 2 to complement what we're doing with IDEA, Travis, or?
There is, and so one of the elements that we're looking at is to think through what I referenced earlier, the return on investment, to think about us as an entire entity, and then how many external and even internal that we think about in the development of school. And so we want to make sure it's comparable in quality and standards, and at what levels. Is it an elementary, middle, high school? We have our K-12 partner, which is IDEA Public Schools, and we're navigating that grade by grade, so we're going to let that mature. We want to think about what other opportunities that exist that may not be full K-12 programs.
So if we approve tonight to move forward with the discussions with these 2, there will be time for open community discussion, and I'm not just saying a particular school that we might choose. We will be able to put this out to the community and get input back with them before we move forward with the vote.
I would tell you there's an opportunity for us to not only engage with our community, but we will at some point in time have to engage with the school. We're evaluating data. You heard from Deanna Blatter how we're assessing data and evaluating what data looks like by campus. We're assessing the time frame that we are under a constraint with by the state for where schools reside currently right now. And we're looking at all of that and determining what we do with the neighborhood school, because you're only afforded so much opportunity to do something with a campus and with the school. And if we want to keep schools in our neighborhood, if we want kids to be able to pull schools up on the Finder, we got to think about just what our suite of learning looks like, as well as opportunity. And we want to be sure that we put community and district and kids in a strong opportunity, and we only want to do that with the best.
are we approaching any kind of ceiling in terms of how many schools will become a part of this scenario?
We have schools that are at that point. We do, sir, yes.
Do we have the opportunity, and I know it has to come from the way this is being worked, is it's come from internally generated ideas, but do we have something that's trying to replicate what Mr. Fong's done at Bush? That this is an internal school, that we're modeling that?
We have opportunities.
I'm sorry.
We have opportunities for principals to come forward to present their ideas and go through the call process. Some are encouraged and some are just not there yet because they want to continue to build what could be their brand. An example would be Bush Elementary. Encouraged to say, what are some things that you're looking for? As I meet with principals and campus team leaders, I share with them, this is your opportunity to think about how you want to deliver school and whatever methodology that you feel works best for you. Your indicators show that you're right there to begin that, to make that deliverable happen. And I allow them to make that decision to say, do they want to step forward? I don't want to press them to go forward because then ownership lies with someone else. I want them to continue to own what that program looks like. But I do talk with them, a number of them, to say that you're ready. When you're ready, you let me know. So some of those jumped early, which were our first 6 that said, those leaders said, we're ready, we want to take it on, and navigated it, and it was very difficult, and I'm excited about, or let me use the word very challenging, I'm excited about how they have opened this school year to get started. But it's a two-way street with principals and internal concepts. So example, people are sharing that we should have a young men's school. I say all for it. I'm not the one that's going to generate the concept. Someone has to bring that concept through the process, and then we've got to figure out how we build that program based on the quality and the standard that someone sets forth. So that's every year it's open up for our principals, and we present it to them first to say, this is your opportunity, and we created what are called gates. Based on your school performance framework, based on your state assessment, just think of a gating concept. And as you get your performance, you get to move to the next gate. The next gate tells you what happens next. So as you clear what are the structures and the standards in that gate, you get to move to the next gate. And so we gave that gating principle to we gave that gating concept to our principals so they can determine our campus has met this criteria and it looks like we're ready for these kind of actions to occur. Good and bad, meaning if you are not performing, these are actions that would happen based on the gating principle and concepts. And so they understand, I believe they understand what that looks like, and it's about readiness. And if you talk to the 6 that started this year, they will tell you that that's, I won't use the word excruciating, but I will use the word, it challenged them in a way that they've not probably been challenged before to launch and get a school started. And so I'm up for anyone, and they have the support to make that happen. This year, it looks like we had one.
We had one internal this year. And
Coleman
basically Dr. Sparicello from Midland High presented a virtual academy, and what we've done is kind of taken that and morphed it with Mr. Horner's guidance about what that might look like to better serve both our comprehensive high schools through Coleman with a virtual academy, and what does that look like? So they're in a major design phase right now.
Right,
so that's why that has not been brought forward.
The current program, Coleman, and what it does, because it needs to look different. It still looks like regular school, and it's my belief that kids who are at Coleman left regular school because it was that way, and they need to get their experience in a very different way. So Dr. Sparicello brought a concept. We have a campus that has that design construct, and we want to see how we can emerge and build that work. And so they're doing their due diligence of travel to go look and see what are programs that are out there that are very different in regards to whether it be virtual, hybrid, that kids can navigate and be fluid in that program. That's what this is. It's an opportunity to think about, if you like instruction delivered this way, can we partner with someone who could help us do a framework to say this is a school and they deliver this way. There will be a time where we will shelve what it looks like for external partners. We have so much space, and I'm thinking about what all that looks like for us, and our team members have that conversation as well, that, maybe it's this as an elementary, and this as a 612, and this as a K-8, or this as a K-12. There's only so much space for that to occur, based as well for our own individual principals who want to launch the autonomy to push themselves forward. So I'm excited about what this opportunity brings to us as a community. We're on the cutting edge of what learning should look like differently for kids who walk down sidewalks to their school. And kids should know, and parents should know, what are the environments that best suit the learning style of my student. And it should not be just one construct. Although rows and a chalkboard or a whiteboard are good, and some people find that standard to be okay, we were partnering with someone to think about that in a traditional way of schooling to the very non-traditional way that goes to, I want a small group setting, large group setting. I want, 2 teachers to work this large group for kids who are advancing and learning, and I want a smaller setting to be able to work with students in a more intimate way and deliver that instruction. It's almost like an airport. You see what your needs are, and you go to that gate. It's just doing it in a very broad way, and we want to be with the best thinkers around the country who are thinking like that. And we can replicate and move on. So we still have opportunities to think about schools that are doing really well, where a principal takes that concept and replicates that model somewhere else. So it's still, let's use Bush as an example. Bush is doing what they're doing, and we want to replicate Bush similarly in how they're doing that practice somewhere else. And we replicate 2 Bushes, and then we have a principal sitting over what that could look like. It is completely wide open, but someone has to say, I'm ready to launch into that leadership.
Yeah.
I don't ask questions to degrade the work you've done, because y'all have done amazing work, and your department has moved at light speed doing this work. If anything, what we've learned out of this bond, in my opinion, is people need to know what we're doing. And I know we've given lots of opportunities, but we need to go above and beyond to make sure our community is aware of what's going on in our school district. And give them the opportunity for buy-in or input or that sort of thing. I know you've had meetings. I've been to some of the meetings. They're not well attended, but we've got to do everything we can to say we did our very best. And so that's the only thing I caution about, is let's make sure that we're being transparent and letting everybody know what's going on. Because I think the work's been done. I look forward to great things for the Young Women's Academy. I mean, if you've been in the building, you know how exciting that is over there, and that's just an opportunity that has come about this year. So, thank you.
Yeah, in that regard, there's been questions asked. We need to be more clear about what our vision of a system of great schools is, the Midland version, and I think, I don't think anybody who signed on to become a system of great schools on this board or the prior board envisioned wanting to become an all-charter school district at all. Instead, the Midland version was going to be a combination of opportunities to replicate successes from those in our district that are having success, giving them autonomy to be even more successful, and replicate them if they're willing to do so. It also included partnering with successful third parties who are willing to partner with us as an in-district charter operator, so that we can take advantage of the demonstrated success that they've had elsewhere, similarly situated students, and see if we can't benefit from bringing their playbook here and having success here and having a front row seat to seeing how they do it, so maybe we can learn and replicate the good things that they do that have success, that we can replicate that in Midland. I think Young Women's Leadership Academy is a good example where we identified, or they came to us, we evaluated them, and we identified them as a very successful operator and having a proven track record of success. And we look forward to seeing the benefits of that. And I hope there will be benefits. I have every reason to expect they'll be successful here just as they've been successful everywhere else. I'm excited about the charter opportunity with IDEA next year. And given the track record of success they've had in serving lower socioeconomic students in a successful way, to adopt a true, no excuses, growth mindset philosophy that we embrace in this district, that they have a proven track record of success. We want them to come here and turn around Travis and make sure it's a successful campus. And we want a front row seat to how they do that, so we can hopefully replicate that and learn from that for all our campuses. So it's not a path that we've embarked on to try and say we're just going to turn it over to charter operators and just wash our hands of the whole situation. Instead, it's going to be an isolated attempt to identify operators willing to come to us and express an interest, and then evaluate them, and if it makes sense, do so. And it sounds like the first one that we have for consideration is Third Future Schools. They operate 3 charter schools in Colorado. One of the campuses won the Colorado Succeeds Prize, which is Colorado's most prestigious education award for student academic growth, innovation, and transformation impact on the education sector in Colorado. Sounds like, given that we have 19% of our students in the elementary school campus level that are in seats that have been poorly rated by TEA, certainly makes sense to me to explore future contract negotiations with this entity to see if we can agree that it makes sense for them to be an in-district charter opportunity for MISD. And so, but it's not the start of Katie bar the door, we're just going to make every school a charter school. But it will be part of an effort to make sure that we partner with those that make sense. And this is just the first step to see if this one makes sense. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. And in fact, just last week, Commissioner Morath made the statement that a system of great schools is inclusive of internal and external opportunities.
All right, well, we still don't have a motion. I suggest we take them up separately.
Oh, okay.
The Third Future School, it would be the first action item I would suggest.
A second.
Mr. Fuller moved?
Yeah.
Mr. Marquez second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Second one is Phelan Leadership Academy.
Second.
All right. And this is a proposed, take a low-performing MISD campus and transform it the Phelan Leadership Academy model, which has a proven track record of success in Indiana, Michigan, and Texas. And they're interested in expanding the Permian Basin. So this would be, this motion is designed to explore that opportunity with them and see if it makes sense. And I wholeheartedly agree with respect to this one and the last one, that we need to make sure that we communicate with the community, inform them what we're considering doing, and get their feedback on it. We'll do that as, they have an even more concentrated effort, and I hope people show up, hope that they give us their input, whether it be in person or online. All those in favor, y'all ready for the vote? All those in favor of Phelan Leadership Academy proceeding forward with least discussions, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. All right, the last one is Coleman High School redesign, and this would be something that our existing MISD personnel came up with on their own. Is that right?
That one does not require recommendation.
Oh, there's not, okay. But tell us what the plan is.
The plan currently, right now, do you want to speak to that? You would do better than me.
Yes, sir. The overall picture is a full redesign, including changing somewhat of a profile of the student attending Coleman, still serving the at-risk students that traditionally go to Coleman, but reaching out to students that we may lose to homeschool, other places that we don't do a great job of serving students that necessarily are at risk, but not the same criteria we've used in the past, such as the virtual academy, doing virtual platform to some degree, night school to some degree, and the third part of it, we're really looking at a half-day high school program combined with a half-day CTE certificate, where you leave with the industry certificate when you graduate. So there's a lot to it, but that's the three big buckets that they fall into: the virtual piece, night school, which would be a combination of that, and the CTE / half-day program.
And so this is the report item basically on the line. That's what's happening. It doesn't require approval because you're not seeking to enter into any kind of discussions about a contract with a third party. Is that right?
It is in-house, and the virtual piece is the piece that was brought in by the Call for Quality Schools through Dr. Sparcello.
Okay.
So, you know, one thing that I've talked about several years ago, but, so night school, you know, students are struggling, right? There's always, I know for a fact because I lived that, but there's always students struggling because they have to work, right? They can't make ends meet, and they're trying to make either a day job or evening job or so forth. But, so I'm just asking so y'all can look at it, but what's the possibility of partnering up with the bus system that exists in Midland, the public bus system?
Yes, sir.
Where some of these students that are in the high school or even in our current high schools can have opportunity to use that transportation to help them better either go to night school or go to day school, or, you know, that are struggling already to get from point A to point B.
Ms. Marquez, that is a great question. We just took a trip to a Los Angeles program, and that literally they build every one of their schools near a bus stop for that exact reason. So it gave us some great concept ideas. You know, we have the ability to use our own you know, transit system to that advantage. Basically, you know, finding a way to make sure that they're able to get there. So we're definitely looking at that as a factor of getting kids to a site, whether it be Coleman or a night school at some other site. But it's a great idea, and we are exploring that right now. Even
the Midland College, early college students that are having to travel to the campus that.
Yes, sir. If I may, like I said, I mentioned the profile of the Coleman student. That student traditionally struggles with transportation much more than just, I mean, I'm not saying other students don't. Traditional students at early college and middle high and Lehigh, maybe even freshman schools, but definitely the students that have gone through some kind of trauma, for lack of a better way of saying it, you know, that they end up on an at-risk list. You know, they generally really do struggle, number one, with attendance, but number two, you know, attendance is a factor of getting to school. So we think it's a great idea to use the transit system. So we'll explore all across the board, but definitely the Coleman program we're looking at, the transit system is one of the features there, because they run in the evenings, and there's a stop literally at the park right next to Coleman. So
great.
Mr. Horner, I think the plans that are going forward relative to Coleman High School will go a long way, not only in raising the profile of the school itself, but help community folk to understand the difference between Culver and Coleman.
It's a very good point, yes, sir. We agree the profile piece is important to us. We fight the reputation, long served, that Coleman serves, you know, pregnant students only, and that's because there's literally a daycare right next, you know, on the Coleman site. Our employees now use that daycare because we've decreased the usage by our MISD students. The percentage right now is less than 10% of students at Coleman are parents, and they're not necessarily all girls, by the way. So the profile is an important piece, as well as the factor of adding in CTE industry certificates that get them high-paying, you know, jobs and access to post-secondary programming.
I think another key point, we've talked about groups going on site visits. I think another key point is that these are grant funded. These are not local funds for these trips.
I do have one other question that, Dr. Kell, you mentioned that on these site visits, as far as outside the district. Are you talking about site visits?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so who all attends those site visits?
Oh, goodness. We have quite a range, all the way from campus level representation to the superintendent.
So
and then in the past, we've had some board members attend.
Well, I guess my question would be, I guess, as far as buy-in, I don't know what the legalities of it is maybe asking some of our community members maybe to join in on some of that might have an interest. I know you're going to take so many, but...
They would be welcome to attend if they'd like, however, it cannot be funded by federal funds.
Okay. Out of pocket. Okay. I think it's still an opportunity if someone's wanting to go. I guess depends on what the finances are, but there's an opportunity.
Maybe that could be done through the philanthropy part, but...
All right, any more questions for Ms. Kale? I think we've taken up the 2 action items that was on this item. Anything else? All right, it is 7:59 p.m. and we will go into closed session in accordance with Government Code Sections 55.071 through .074, 551.076, 551.0821, through .084. Thank you all for coming. It is 9:13 p.m. and we are emerging from closed session and will now take up agenda item 8A, teacher contract abandonment. 1, good cause did not exist for resignation. And 2, complaint and request for sanction to TEA regarding Jay Molinar. Motion by Mr. Trischetti, second by Mr. Marquez. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Our final action item is 8B, teacher contract abandonment. 1, good cause did not exist for resignation. And 2, complaint and request for sanction to TEA regarding A. Reyes.
Move.
Motion by Mr. Marquez, second by Mr. Trischetti. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. It is now 9:14 p.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you.